Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel, Planning with Bree. I'm Bree, and today we are going to be setting up some of the spreads in my prayer journal. So the first thing I'm going to do is start by making a watercolor page that I'm going to use for one of these spreads. And I'm just showing you the two different types of brushes that I have. One is from Michael's, from a set that I bought so that I could use those paint brushes in my Mod Podge. And the other one, this one that I'm using right here, I think is the one that came with the set. So this watercolor set I got from Walmart maybe about a year and a half ago when I first started bullet journaling. I bought it with my very first bullet journal, and it couldn't have been more than about $4 or $5. So these paints are not very high quality, but for someone who is starting out in bullet journaling and right now where I don't use it very often, it gets the job done, and I think it comes out really pretty in the end. So in order to get this look, which for this look I'm kind of going for a sunset theme. I didn't really know what I was going for. I was just kind of wanting to play in watercolor, honestly. So I start out at the top with some pinks, like the darkest pinks that I have here in the set, going into those reddish pinks. And I'm really having to dig into these paint wells because this is a very, very dry watercolor set, and it can get pretty hard. The paint can get pretty hard when I'm trying to paint with it. So if you can see me, I'm really digging into those paints to get a lot of pigment out. And then down at the bottom, I use some oranges and a little bit of that yellow orange. I'm just going back and forth between those two colors to give it a good gradient. I really like pink and orange together, so that was one of the reasons I wanted to do this gradient. And that is it for the spread. Well, for this watercolor page, I'm going to set that aside and let it dry while I work on another page. But first, I am going to try out all of the pens that I received in this set from Amazon. This is the Pigma Micron 6 pen set. It includes this brush pen, which I really like. It writes very smooth on the bullet journal paper. And it also includes these 4 Pigma Micron pens. So the first one, I'm drawing out my name in the smallest one, which is the 0.005. It's a very, very thin line. I could see myself using that for like the details and flowers, and that's the same. I could see myself using the 0.01 for that as well. I already had the 0.05 because that's something I picked up at Michael's. And then it also includes the 0.08, which is an incredibly thick line right there. And I'm really glad I got this set. I can see myself really using it. Now I'm going to line these up against the G2 Pilot. This is a very bad example of the G2 Pilot, which I love, but it kind of lines up with the 0.05 thickness, which is why I loved it so much. I didn't know I got it in blue, but that's okay. I could use the blue pen as well. So this is just a flip through of the updated part. I don't have a video on these. These are just spreads that I did when I was being creative. But these pages right here is what my prayer journal looks like on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. So those more elaborate, colorful spreads are just my favorite scriptures in the Bible that I wanted to make a spread for. I probably do that like once or twice a month. So what I am coloring right now is going to be the basis of an experiment. So I wanted another page with just filled with color, and I didn't have a lot of dark blues and purples in the watercolor set, so I decided to see if I could use my Crayola Supertips as a watercolor experiment, I guess. So I'm just really coloring all around this page with the Crayola Supertips first. So I made sure to lay the various shades of blue from lightest to darkest as a gradient, so that when I go in with my water like I'm doing now, it would be more seamless, and it would flow. So for this painting, I guess you could call it, I wanted a darker sky. I wanted it to be more like a darker sunset, or like the aurora borealis. I have trouble saying that, but more along those lines of the vibrant blues and purples. So that's what I was going for. Now, I will say this turned out really well for it to be Crayola and water. I've never tried this before. This is on paper from my sketchbook, which lends very, very well to water. So when I get done blending that out in a way that's smooth, there are no more lines, I set that to the side to dry as well. Now we are going to do the title page for the prayers section in my prayer journal. So this part of my prayer journal, I am going to do mostly paper, and I guess you could call it multimedia. It just has a little bit of drawing. So for this page, I did have an idea of the color scheme. I wanted to stick to the color scheme I used when I originally set up my bullet journal, or excuse me, my prayer journal. I'm so used to saying that. And I'll leave the link in the cards above if you want to check that out. So I just use a really heavy book to apply a lot of pressure to these pages, because those dark green pieces that I laid down are actually pieces from a thick file folder. So they need a lot more pressure than like these book pages that I'm gluing down. So I'm just going through and just laying these pieces anywhere that I see fit. One thing that I like about multimedia is, or one thing I try to make sure to do in my multimedia spreads, is to kind of cover up where the scrap pieces meet. So down at the bottom where I just laid that dark green strip, I was covering up that awkward space between the lime green paper and the book page paper. And I like to do that just because I don't like to see a lot of different edges meeting in one spot. I know that sounds weird, but that's just something that I like to do with my layering. And then I go in with, I'm pretty sure this is the 0.05 Pigma Micron. And I just outline the leaves in that picture just to give it some detail. And then I'm going to draw some more leaves, just all around these book pages, just to give the page something else. I go in with the Kelly Art marker and that dark shade of green. I'll leave the shade on the screen because I don't know off the top of my head what shade that is. And I use the thick tip and then the fine tip of that pen to give it some green color. I add a little bit of details using those little diamond shapes, and they kind of spread because I used like a water-based glue, so they became a little thicker than I wanted, but it still added a cute touch. So for this next page, I outline it in this border that I have really come to like, which is just a series of dashes, dots, and open circles, just repeating. And I'm not sure why, but I really like this border. It kind of looks like jewelry to me. I think that might be why I like it. And it's just something different from the normal straight line border. Y'all know what I'm talking about? So for this page, if you've been watching my channel, you know that I like writing or fonts as a background. So I am going to write Pray Without Ceasing in 3 different hand lettering styles. So I use the all caps, the elongated cursive, and then my normal everyday cursive as the 3 different handwriting fonts that I chose to use. And I just write it over and over. I make sure to start the line with a different word or a different part of that verse so that the words are not straight up and down, like lined up, and you would get gaps in your pages because the words are the same length and the same spot. I hope that makes sense. So for these pages, I wanted to make sure that I laid the book pages out in a way that it looks like a book in the middle, and then it it looks like I ripped off the edges on the left and the right, which was my inspiration or what I was going for this page. And in this zoomed in part right here, you can see what I'm talking about. I don't know, it's just so pretty to me to have that in the middle. So then I laid down this piece of scrap paper, which was just this decorative leaf print that I'm pretty sure I found on Pinterest. And I wrote the word prayer out, and this is my cover page spread for the prayer section in my Bible. Now I will be using this to obviously write my prayers. More than likely, I'm going to write them on Post-it notes and then transfer them to another binder for answered prayers. I think that's what I'm going to do. Never done that before. If you have a prayer binder, let me know, or prayer book, let me know. So this is going to be my praise and worship section. I was just showing you guys that I've already started filling it in with some of my favorite verses from Psalms. And like I said earlier, that's not that type of page. It's very decorative. It's probably not something I'll do all the time. It's just something that was really pretty, and all of those verses were saved. I probably did that entire page in maybe 10 minutes. So maybe I could do it every day, but right now this is just a place for me to quickly write out some very, very quick, encouraging worship and praise for God. So I have a section just for that. So on the left-hand side of this spread, I laid down that painting. I want to call it a painting because of how I use the water and the paintbrush, but that's what we made with the Crayola Supertips on the left hand side. And then on the right hand side, I'm just going to do some very bouncy hand lettering. So for this hand lettering, it is very reminiscent of what I did in my last video last week in my mom's prayer journal. If you have not seen that video, I'll link it up in the cards right here. And yeah, it's very, very similar all the way down almost to the colors. So for the first color, the first blue that I used, it was the shade 81 in the Cali art markers. And again, you can find these down in my description box. You can find them linked down below if you'd like to check out the Cali art markers. I really like them. They're a very good substitute for the Crayola Supertips. They're very easy for hand lettering. They come in a lot of different shades. They're very fun to work with. They have a brush tip end, and they also have a fine tip end as well. So they're perfect. And then on top of it, to do the ombre lettering, I am going to use the Crayola Supertip in a navy blue color. One thing I will say, okay, can we just all agree that Crayola should number their markers, or is it just me? Is that just me? If it's just me and I'm tripping, let me know in the comments. But if you think Crayola Supertips should number their markers, let me know. Tag them in this video. I don't even know if they have a YouTube page, but let them know that Bree said they should number their markers. If they need help, I'll help them. I would love to help them number their markers. But anyway, back to the spread. After I finish the ombre lettering, I just go in with the white Uniball Signo gel pen and just add some touches inside the letterings. I make sure to drag the white pen between both colors instead of just keeping it at the top where just the navy is. And to me, it just kind of makes it look like a bubble letter. It kind of gives it a highlight. After that, I use the lightest blue marker I have. I believe this is a shade 63. I'm not sure. I'll leave it on the screen. And I just go through and highlight the background of the downstrokes so that it just gives it a nice pop of color. On this page over here to the left, I am going to write out a scripture. It is very hard to see on camera, but in person, it is really, really pretty. I think it goes really well with the theme of the dark sky. And I didn't want to use white just because it wasn't going to have the brush pen lettering that I liked. It would have taken too long. And I was already just like, yeah, let's just go with the black. Okay, so I did use that brush tip pen that I demonstrated earlier in the video that came with all of the Pigma Micron in that 6-pin set. I used that one. The scripture I chose to use on this page is Psalms 9:2, which says, "I will be filled with joy because of you." And I think that just really encapsulates what I want to include in this section in my journal. So I'm going to finish this cover page off with the same border that I used on the last one. And then I'm going to fill in the background with some light blue horizontal lines, just because I felt like it was a little too blank and I just wanted to add a little bit more color. Once I am done with this page, we will be on to the next cover page. Alright, now for this last cover page, I am going to use the watercolor that we colored at the beginning, or painted at the beginning of the video. I knew I wanted this page to be a little bit different than the other pages, but I still wanted to keep it simple. So I have this piece of scrap paper that I got from a bag from something I bought a long time ago. So I kept it. This was like back in November. I kept it because I knew I was going to use it. I love this pink color. And I start by tearing those 2 sheets of paper up, and then I'm going for the same look that I did in the cover page that I did for my prayers journal. So I'm going to put the notebook paper in the back. I had this idea after I had already glued down the pink sheet of paper, so I had to kind of nudge it in there. But so I'm going to do the notebook paper, or this lined paper that I got from a journal that was given to me for Christmas. And I just tore out a few sheets of paper. I am cutting off those straggly ends, just so it's a little more seamless in the crease of my journal. And I'm just going to continue to glue this pink paper, or the pink scrap, down on the right hand side, just so it mirrors the left side of the spread. So that painting that we did, I cut it up into 2 small pieces so that it can spread over both sides of this cover page. And I'm going to write the word sermons on the 2 sheets of paper. So I write the first part of the word on one part, and then I write the next part of the word on the second. Again, I am using this brush tip pen that I got, or that I swatched earlier in the video. And it's a little harder to write on this paper from my scrapbook, or from my sketchbook. Just because the sketchbook is textured. It's more for, I believe it's for painting. Again, I got this sketchbook from Walmart, and it's not as smooth as bullet journal paper, so I had to go over the lines a few times to get them how I wanted them to look, just making those downstrokes a little bit thicker, so that it looks more like the traditional hand lettering. And I knew I wanted this to look a little bit different. I had this idea to make 4 different pieces, and you'll see what I mean. I'm gonna cut these in half and kind of line them up. For some reason in my head, I just really like the idea of having them just like scattered pieces, but I had to make sure that I didn't cut it up too much. I still wanted to be able to see the word. So I'm gonna glue those down. And then I am going to write the word sermons in a different kind of all capital letter font on both sides of the paper. And then I'm going to use some dots just to decorate the back of the page. So at this point, I'm not really sure what I want to do at this page. I've come this far and I'm just a little stuck. So I decided to do a border, like a flower leaf border. And that was the most simple thing I could come up with and still be kind of cute. I didn't want to do too much drawing in this spread just because, number one, like I've been saying in this video, guys, I really had no idea what I wanted to do. I just knew that I needed to get it done because I'm so excited to continue to use this journal, and me not having these pages done was kind of holding me back, just because the sections weren't done. So yes, so on the notebook paper, I use a black, the 0.08 or the 0.8, excuse me. I use the black 0.8 Pigma Micron to create that border, and I continue the border on the pink sheets of paper with the white Jelly Roll pen that came in that set. And I'm just creating these leaves. I'm drawing the leaves that I drew on the cover page for the prayers journal, and I'm just going all the way around with different sizes of the leaves, putting them on different angles, having them going different ways, and I just fill in the entire page. Overall, I really like how all three of these cover pages they're kind of the same as far as the sermons and the prayers cover page, but they're pretty different. Like, they're different in color, they're a little different in the vibe that I was going for, and I really enjoyed that. I wanted this to be something that was pretty, but I also wanted it to be, I didn't want to include that color scheme, the green and tan color scheme, throughout the entire journal because it's a little dark, and I just wanted something different. So to finish off this page, I am going to use my gold gel pen, and I'm just kind of giving it some details by smearing it on purpose, and I really like that. So this is the final flip through of all three of the cover pages. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and come back next Tuesday for a different video. Bye.